Welcome back, everybody, to Talk of the Now podcast with Gene and Jason here today again with you. Jason, how you doing?
Yes, I'm doing well, sir.
Really? Well, Jason, we talked a little off right before this about what you've done since marriage recently, very recently, as in last week. You went to Hawaii, didn't you?
Hawaii, yes, I did. I did. It
And
was fun.
Aloha.
Yes, sir.
And where did you go, Jason?
The island of Oahu. So
I already knew this.
I've never been to Hawaii. My wife and her parents had been to Hawaii multiple times,
Mhm.
so they figured since I'd never been to go to the main, main attraction island, which is Oahu with Honolulu. Not the biggest island. The big island of Hawaii is the biggest one.
But is it the best?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Is there a
I don't
bad
know either.
part of Hawaii? Anyway, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Did a lot of the touristy stuff. We did some hikes actually, which were really good. Went to the Kualoa Ranch. I'll plug people on here because they're all awesome over there. Where they filmed a lot of scenes from movies, including some of Jurassic World. Actually, um, that was pretty neat. Did a little almost like safari vehicle tour through the jungle, and they talked about Hawaiian history and all this stuff and all the vegetation and what was native and what wasn't and all this. It was pretty neat. Um, yeah, I did that. We did went to the North Shore. I got to see a couple surf breaks that I've always wanted to see my entire life. Of course, they're flat, no waves because it's the summertime. And there's you know
Oh,
not big waves in the summer. It's only in the winter.
okay.
But I got to see Bonsai Pipeline and Waimea Bay. That was kind of neat. Stuck my foot in the water in both of them. By the way, the Pacific's cold, in case anybody's wondering. All those nice, beautiful Hawaiian beach. You look at pictures, and then you go stick your feet in the water. You're like, oh my gosh, just like ice.
Really?
Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, the South Pacific is more warm. This is the middle,
I didn't
So
know that. Yeah.
yeah, it's deceiving. Yeah,
Yeah, because you're
um,
close to the equator.
you are, but you're out in the deeper part of you know what I mean? Like, so there's not a lot of.
Interesting.
It's about the currents, I think. Anyway, like the beach at our hotel, um, the Hilton Hawaiian Village, um, they in the sunlight, in the sunny day, it would warm up some in the water. But
Mm.
I will say, I'm just going to be honest with you, Gene. Kind of like California, we have been spoiled with our beaches on the Gulf Coast because our sand is still the best.
Hmm.
I'll be honest with you, because even in Hawaii, it was very coarse compared to other ones, and it was the darker sand, so it was hot. Um,
Mhm.
so and there was some rocks and stuff in the when you go out into the water. There's like a whole line of rocks. You gotta do a little exfoliation on your feet. But other than that,
Right,
it was
right.
amazing.
Did
Yeah,
I hear right that Hawaii kind of depends on the beach? Like some beaches are different types of sand.
yeah,
Like maybe
um,
some are more of a soft white sand, and then other beaches are completely black.
yeah. They got the volcanic sand, kind of like when I went to
Yeah.
Iceland on our honeymoon. Yeah, I mean, obviously, tourism is their biggest industry.
Yeah.
Period. Um, I didn't realize Hawaii had stopped doing sugarcane back in the like mid late '80s. I didn't realize that.
Hmm.
Um, we went to the Dole plantation too. We got to see the Dole plantation where historically where all the pineapples
Okay.
were grown. That was pretty neat.
Now I've got here for people that are watching the video. I'm going to try to share my screen, and we're going to see if we can get a little picture the of one of the pictures that you
Mm.
sent to me.
We're gonna. Oh yeah, look this. Yeah. Can you make it bigger?
Let's see, and there's the hotel, right? Oh, hey, can you
Yeah.
see that
That.
hotel? Is it moving around?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
so I'm on the right screen then. All right.
yeah, you might want to hit that full screen there.
Oh, it is on full screen.
Or fill or whatever. So that is the Hilton Hawaiian Village. We're in the Kailea, I think is the name of it, tower, which is on the back of the property. Which we were like, oh, it's an obstructed view. Yeah, that's our obstructed view. By the way, that's amazing.
Wow.
And if you look there, there's that rainbow tower, the tower with it's actually a mosaic. Gene's gonna,
I don't know why I'm drawing on this thing.
trying to draw in the lines.
I may have to edit this out, but okay, yeah.
But anyway, the tower that's right there that's got the rainbow mosaic, so rainbow tower, that one's famous. Like if you see the new Hawaii 5.0, they do a lot of filming on this this resort. And then that little body of water kind of right in between those two towers is a lagoon that they have on the property. So you can go paddleboarding on it and do whatever. It's pretty neat. And they do fireworks every Friday.
Okay.
It was a neat thing. I've been spoiled a bit by going to that resort. Yeah, it was. And that was our our view from our balcony, so on the 21st floor.
Okay. So, well, that sounds pretty fun, actually. I think that would like to go one day. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you got to make it eventually.
Yeah. And you told me that it was not the cheapest food ever that you had either, right?
And that's the thing. Like, I think they gouge the tourists a little bit there. In Waikiki area, which is where we were basically on the one end of it. We were walking distance from all the crazy commercial Waikiki. Just to kind of give you an idea, you walk down the main little road from our hotel and go through a really nice park. And then you get to the shop section and there's Tiffany and a Tesla shop. And I mean, it's that kind of level of stuff down there.
Did you observe any high rollers that look like high roller type people?
Yeah, you could see that a little. Oddly enough, it was mostly the tourists right around there, which I'm sitting there thinking, how many tourists are really going into Tiffany to buy? Anyway. But there's a bunch of hotels, and all these hotels have their own little shopping, like open air malls, for lack of a better term. So you walk through these shops, and you're like, oh wow, there's the entrance to the hotel. And like our hotel is completely open air, like lobby. Check-in was all open air. So was the airport, actually, which was kind of cool. It's definitely different there, but it's definitely something you need to see. But just, I was telling Gene before we started that the kind of average price for two people to eat, and this is a lot of places, I guess, for vacation, but it's $70 and $100. Kind of in any decent sit down restaurant. Right around there.
Well, I mean, I imagine once you get your food and entrees and drinks or whatever you're doing there, and by the time you pay tip, it's going to be easily that.
Yeah, and that's just how it is. And so, getting there, we were able to basically fly for free pretty much on our tickets because of our miles, so that kind of helped. Obviously going to Iceland a couple, last summer helped with miles and stuff like that. Whatever. It was, so we saved some money, but you just spend it all back in the food. So if you ever go with kids, Gene, and you take them all, Gene, yeah, or no, but if you had to, get a room that has a kitchenette and cook some stuff, because I mean, seriously, where we went, like there was there's this little convenience store kind of place that's really kind of cool all over Hawaii called ABC. And there was two of them in our resort, actually. And they're open till 11, which is nice. And, they got pretty much everything you would need to, like, make your own meal. And it was okay prices, actually. I say okay. It was like Whole Foods prices. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's something that I do anyways on typical, if I'm going to be somewhere for like 4 days, if I can help it, I'm going to try to get a kitchenette of some kind, at least that has a refrigerator, and maybe a microwave at the very least. Yeah. And then, you know what? I'm probably going to go buy the local grocery store, and I'm going to get breakfast stuff, and I'm going to get maybe even some peanut butter and jelly and sandwiches and bread and things like that. And then that's going to be my lunches. Right.
If you could cut it to one meal a day, like in a restaurant, then I think Hawaii is just as expensive as anywhere else. You know what I mean? As opposed to being, because, I mean, my wife's parents wanted, and it was nice. We went and ate a big breakfast at Tropics restaurant there on the grounds of the resort. So every morning, literally every morning, which was great. But whew,
So what you're saying is it was no Hampton Inn free breakfast on.
dude, ain't no free about any of that. No continental breakfast
Oh
there.
man.
But I'm sure there were places there where you could do that. I'm sure there are. They're just not going to be the big resort hotels.
Oh yeah. You
Um,
gotta go big. You pay big. That's for sure. Yeah.
and something interesting about Hawaii that you don't see a lot of places is literally every beach is public. So even the ones that are right there near the resort are public. So at night it gets kind of interesting. There's a lot of street performers and stuff that perform on the other side of the sidewalk because that's public. And so we got to actually see a lot of the local flair in that, which was really kind of neat. Guys carving stuff,
Yeah.
all kinds of things. Yeah.
Interesting. I would think that I mean, especially nowadays since Hawaii is no longer. I mean, if this was 1950, Hawaii
Yeah.
would be sort of a trendy in thing to go do, and it would be up and coming. But I would think that it has to be astronomical to buy beachfront property in Hawaii.
I mean, I wouldn't even want to know how much. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't even.
I never even tried to look it up, but
I should have Zillowed while I was there.
I guess I could still Zillow, but
I mean, beachfront property in general is always going to be more expensive, but you can imagine everything being more expensive in Hawaii. If you ever watch, what is it? I can't remember what it's called. One of those shows that's unrealistic, where the two people are buying a house in Hawaii and
My Hawaiian Life. No, I'm kidding.
Hawaii Life or something like that, where they work like, both of them work for like nonprofits or something. And like, oh, our budget's $10 million. What?
I'm a homemaker and my husband makes baskets for a living.
Yeah, it's like, man,
Our budget is $2 million, and we have 4 children.
Yeah, I know. And apparently they're all going to work because, I don't know how you're affording it. But anyway, you see that and you see, like, I mean, the amount of money they have to pay for some little tiny shack is crazy.
I mean, based on what you said and what I've heard and know, to me, it sounds like if you decide to up and root and move to Hawaii, you're going to have to be one of those people that tries to be very self-sustaining. Like you're going to probably have your own little garden in the back and become somewhat of a vegetarian, maybe. I don't know. Or eating a lot of fish.
If you live on the North Shore, you could eat chickens because they're walking around everywhere. It's crazy. I was like, am I in Mexico or what's going on?
Step outside and grab one.
I was like, man, you could just hear them like all over the place. I'm like, what in the world? But I will say that a lot of stuff grows in Hawaii. So if you're going to have a garden, that's a place to have one. But yeah, it was sugarcane, mango, all the vegetables,
oranges,
probably all the vegetables will grow there.
Maple syrup might be out of the question there, but
I don't know if they're growing many maple trees.
I think maple syrup usually has to be like in colder environments.
Yeah, I would say so. Japanese maples will grow there, but you can't get a syrup out of the Japanese maples. But it was definitely very lush. I mean, if you go do some hikes, I mean, just amazing.
So y'all did take an interior safari, if you will, hike.
Yeah, we did that, and then we did a couple like on our own. One right off of Waimea Bay, actually. You go up through where the Waimea River comes down, and it's this whole like historic like place.
Mm-hmm. So they have like wilderness areas still.
Oh yeah,
there.
yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't all feel built up on that island.
No, I mean if you're in Hawaii, I mean obviously Honolulu and the Waikiki area is more commercial,
right?
But I mean the island's not that big, so you go interior a little bit and it's like, oh yeah, wow, look at this, it's jungle, it's for lack of a better term, it's like crazy, and it's just beautiful. You just drive and man.
I'm sorry, I was going to say though, Hawaii though for jungle though is kind of different though. Like I assume they have snakes there, but they don't have like wild beasts and such, do they?
No,
imported,
I mean I think there's wild boar. There's boar there, which is actually a problem because they're feral.
But nothing like cougars and
I don't know,
bears, things like that.
Yeah, no bear, no bears. I don't know what their actual beast situation is.
Or not,
Um,
do they, I don't remember if they do. I mean, I would think nowadays because everybody brings everything everywhere.
yeah,
But I want to say that I heard that they don't have snakes there, but I could be
yeah,
wrong.
it's very true.
Oh, it
It's
is?
true.
Okay.
There's no snakes.
Okay. I could get used to that because I don't like snakes.
New Zealand's the same way too.
Really, I
Um,
didn't know that about New Zealand.
well, and they're very tight on their agricultural stuff in Hawaii. You'd think you're going to a foreign country, because you can't bring anything to the island that's not already there, like
Hmm.
vegetation wise, any agricultural stuff.
Interesting.
That's why if you move to Hawaii and you've got pets, it takes longer to get your pets there. Like you have to hire a company and they board them and they have to do all these tests and stuff and make sure that it's okay. They're just trying to control it because it's an island. Um, yeah,
Well, they were the kingdom of Hawaii for the longest time, right?
yep, under Kamehameha.
Well,
Yep,
the thing is too is that I mean, when you think about Hawaii, kind of is its own country in its own sort of way. Like
it
it's
is. Yeah,
like kind of like in a lot of ways, I look at Hawaii as sort of like the U.S. is just sort of like its steward or manager. Like we're just, for lack of a better term, it's a good military outpost. And I'm thinking of historical terms. Like it's
yeah. I
just kind
mean,
of
well, there's a lot of. I will say this. We went to a luau, but not like the one at the hotel or any of that. We actually went like rode a bus 45 minutes away up into the
Mhm.
mountains and did a luau, and it was amazing. And they go into a lot of the history about everything.
Oh,
They have a huge respect for the military there.
very
Uh,
nice.
and it was a family oriented one. The guy actually prayed beforehand. It was a really good prayer. Like it wasn't just a canned,
Hmm.
prayer. It was like really good. But they go
And
into
that's not to
history
take
a lot.
anything away. I mean, trust me, they're
No, no, no.
American, and I'm not saying they're their own play,
Well,
whatever.
here's the deal. Here's the deal. I don't think that Hawaii would mind if they were their own place. Um,
Hmm.
and if there was a state that ever could kind of be their own, I think Hawaii would be one to go back to the Kingdom of Hawaii.
Interesting.
Um, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. Honestly, I know that's a controversial thing, but I think take it back to the Kamehameha family and
Yeah.
descendants. Let
Hmm.
them run it.
Well, it's kind of
But
like, I mean, in some ways, it's kind of like Alaska, right? Like Alaska is part of America, but it's also just kind of up there.
yeah,
It's sort of like,
I would say Alaska is more American, more American ish than
well, culturally speaking, for sure.
to an extent. I mean, if you look at ancient American, then yeah,
Yeah.
um, it's definitely more of that with Inuit
I mean, I
population.
was just kind of thinking Hawaii is more like along the lines of like a America Samoa. It's kind of its own culture, and
It's
it's
similar culture. It's similar culture to all the
Polynesian. It's not really
Polynesian,
like,
Micronesian. Yeah, they actually talk about that in that Lua. They did the whole
mm,
history of everything.
which is great.
Yeah, and
But
you get to learn a lot. It's amazing.
yeah.
So there's you get the dancing and stuff, and the traditions are very similar.
Did you get delayed when you came off the plane? By the way.
No, 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 no.
Okay, so
Uh,
they don't. That's just the movies.
no,
Okay.
uh, but like you look at like say New Zealand, and you look at New Zealand's what is it, Maori population. They're native.
Mhm.
They got that thing called the haka, which is their celebratory chant dance thing, which is very intimidating. If you ever watch
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
rugby, they do it before the rugby matches. The All Blacks
Hmm.
do, and it's pretty amazing.
It's intriguing.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's awesome. In fact, the youngest female MP in New Zealand in their parliament, um, actually did one to start her first speech. She actually performed a haka right there, and she had a bunch of people joining in, and it was really amazing. But Hawaii, they embrace that culture as well too, and you get a lot of respect for that. And the fact that they leave everything named, for the most part, all the native names. It's insanely hard to pronounce a lot of things. Um, but it's good. I mean, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a healthy thing to let a culture kind of remain in the forefront. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but, it's
Um.
beautiful, beautiful culture too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Beautiful people too.
Yeah. I mean, just
uh.
awesome. Yeah, very, very warm, very, very welcoming people.
Yeah. I would definitely be on my list. of places to visit. How was the plane flights?
That was long. I mean, it was two. We flew
Yeah.
into LAX and then LAX to Honolulu.
How was the going to?
I mean, it was smooth.
Right.
Now we got upgraded to Comfort Plus, which just saying
Was it
that
comfortable?
that little bit of difference was amazing. Um,
Uh-huh.
so that always makes a flight a little easier.
How long was the flight from here to California? 3 hours, something like that.
Like 4.5,
Okay, and then what was California to Hawaii?
like 5.5.
Okay, okay,
So
so a
now
bit
we
longer.
had like a 4 hour layover in LA, so
Hmm.
that was nice.
So that's 13 hours roughly covered to get there,
Mm, Yeah, 11. Yeah.
or
Um,
approximately 12.
so I mean, it's not my longest flight. Obviously, Japan was a
Oh
long
yeah.
flight. Flew to Chicago and then Chicago to Tokyo. So it's a little different flying to Hawaii because you kind of know you're over the ocean the entire time
Hmm.
when you leave LA. Um, but I mean, the flight was smooth. I'll just say that. Now coming back, jet lag doesn't normally get me, but man, last week was just, whew, that was tough.
Were you waking up
Um,
at 3 a.m. wanting a sandwich?
no, I was just like, yeah, just exhausted from it. But
Yeah.
coming back east apparently is always harder.
Uh, Now, was it similar coming back as far as time frames and layovers?
Yeah, we didn't have as long a layover in LA, but we had enough.
Okay.
Now, what's good about LAX and that the terminal we were in was because I don't know LAX. I don't know that airport like I know Hartsfield, but the gates were like right next to each other, where we landed and then where we took off. So,
Hmm.
you
And so you had a 4 hour sitting around. What do you do for 4 hours when you just hang out in the airport, and watch TV, eat something?
well, yeah, you had time to go sit down at one of the restaurants and eat, um,
Yeah.
which was nice.
Oh, did
Um,
they have an In-N-Out burger there?
no, I was hoping they
Oh,
would.
that's too bad.
I was telling my in-laws that I was like, oh man, if they had an In-N-Out burger,
They
I would,
don't have one in the man. Don't have one in
that's
the airport
I
anymore.
know, and we looked it up. There's not one. San Francisco had,
Ah.
um, but not LAX.
So
So,
so you have to end up eating at like a regular chain place while you're there, I guess.
well, they actually had their own, um, like restaurants there. So it was actually
Hmm.
still pretty local-ish, I guess, as local as whatever LA is.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, which is kind of like here. It's kind of a melting pot. So local is just whatever. But yeah, it was good. It was definitely a long flight though. I mean, the long flight pattern just to keep, you know. Now, obviously flying Delta like I did, um, which is the only thing I'll fly. Their seat back entertainment's amazing. You got hundreds of movies to choose from. You've
Oh,
got
what
all.
was your movies of choice while you're gone?
Well, when I went out there, I didn't know if I was going to fall asleep, so I just watched a movie. Or watched stuff that I knew already.
Hmm.
So going out there, I watched. Did I watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? And
Uh-huh.
then going to Hawaii, I watched something else. I watched a couple new movies. I don't even know what they were. Um, I'd have
You didn't watch an Elvis Hawaii movie?
no, no, no.
That'd be kind of funny, actually. Get you in the mood.
No, huck a hula baby. No,
Blue Hawaii, I think was.
yeah,
I
Blue
can't remember
Hawaii.
the name.
Actually, a decent movie though if you watch it.
Oh, I
That's
bet. Yeah, I
actually
haven't
is
seen
a
it.
good movie. Like
I
it's
need to
not.
see it. I haven't seen it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his movies were actually fairly good.
Oh,
Like,
he
I
was
mean,
a fairly decent actor, I think.
right? Oh yeah, I agree. But it was like they weren't. I mean, they were cheesy, but they weren't
Yeah.
like they were endearing kind of cheesy. So anyway, um,
Oh, side trail on that. I watched Jailhouse Rock for the first time about
yeah,
3 weeks ago or whatever.
yeah,
Okay, much darker than I thought it would be.
yeah.
Two,
Oh, you're frozen.
the movie. Three, highly entertaining movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
So, yeah, I mean, if you got good seat back entertainment, I mean, obviously you can't make a call or text while you're in there, but you can get on the internet on your phone nowadays. on there, but it's not. It's through their internet, so it's not like the full thing. Um,
So you
but
send a message. So you look up a website, and it's going to take 5 minutes to get it up, like it was 1998.
no, it's actually fairly quick.
Oh, okay.
But I don't use it. I just thought I use the Seatback Entertainment, and I'm fine. You know.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot to keep you occupied there. I mean, what was funny is there was a bunch of storms coming, like from Texas through, Mississippi and everything, when we were leaving Atlanta to come to go out to LA, and it was like, I was thinking we're gonna hit a lot of turbulence. Our pilot went up over around Oklahoma and went that way and avoided them altogether. So no turbulence.
Okay.
Really, I mean, there was some shaking every now and then, but it wasn't nothing bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, it was definitely worth it to go.
So A+ vacation then.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely impressed with the place. Kind of like Iceland, everywhere you look is kind of like a desktop background, that kind of deal. Obviously, it's a little more, commercial than that, but you can get away from the commercial fairly easily in Hawaii.
Did you like it better than Iceland, or about the same, or differently?
What's weird about Hawaii is we all kind of feel like we've been there because of everything that we've seen in Hawaii over the years and movies, TV, and all that stuff. You go there, it's a little different. It seems grander on TV.
Right.
If you go there and it's kind of small. Like take Waimea Bay, for instance. I thought it was this massive bay. Sure, but it's pretty tiny, things like that. Your perspective is a little different when you're there. But but yeah, just gorgeous. And I mean, I liked Iceland in a sense a little better, just because it seemed more wild, if that makes sense.
Well, it is for sure.
What I mean? Like, yeah, it wasn't like. I mean, it was expensive to go there. That was $10,000 easily that vacation. But it's hard. It was like I liked them differently.
Now,
sure,
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm saying I'm sure I'll say the same thing when I go to Europe or somewhere like that kind of thing.
Accommodation wise, do you you don't have to share, but do you know like what you say it stayed at the Hilton, right?
Yeah.
What was the nightly rate for your room?
That's a good question. I don't really know. Because my wife and my in-laws kind of planned some kind of deal through their thing, and we did it through Delta Vacations, actually.
Oh, okay.
It actually wound up being cheaper, I think, because of that, because you get it like kind of as a package. So it's a good question. I don't really know.
Well, it's on my list one day. I mean, I have so many on my list. It's not even funny. I don't know if I'll get around to them because, Jason, you'll find out when you have kids one day that most of your planning of trips and valleys and excursions. I mean, you can do them with kids. But
I mean, that's ultimately why we all should save for retirement too, because you can do that a little bit easier. When you're retired. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you just got to go,
Just go. Okay, Tom Brady. I've seen those commercials.
Yeah, no. I mean, what I mean? Like go. Sometimes you just got to go, okay, you know what? Let's just book the trip and go. Just. But like Hawaii or Iceland obviously is a little different than going somewhere in the continental US. It's like it costs a lot more to be at those places. So you have to kind of there's a lot in the continental US that I want to see, like
I mean, I am thinking about, and I'm not going to say when or if, but maybe, hey kids, we're just going to load up and come next July or whatever, we're going to the Grand Canyon. It's going to happen. We're going to try to make it, or whatever. Yosemite, Black Hills of South Dakota. We're going.
That's right. Yeah.
Something like that. I've never been to those places, so.
Well, and I think national parks are a good idea too, because you traditionally aren't going to spend as much money doing that. But I will say this, you need to reserve everything in a national park way ahead of time. Even stuff that like says it's open, get your reservations. because we got screwed out of that in Glacier
Yeah.
once.
Yeah.
We didn't get to a place soon enough, and there was no room. So,
You know,
yeah.
that's true. I mean, think about Atlanta and just the southeast region that we live.
Yeah.
And we've been to Florida plenty of
Oh.
times.
Yeah.
South Carolina, you've been to Alabama, places like that. And my biggest complaint, and I don't even know if it's a complaint so much as it is people have enormously more time on their hands than I could have ever imagined. Because whenever I seem to go to these places, like just as an example, I picked Ruby Falls,
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Yep.
A couple years ago, and we're like, all right, we're gonna drive up there. It's gonna be a September on a Tuesday morning, and we get there, and of course, it's just like any other crowded day. There's just people going in and out of a gift shop and inside the mountain, and you're like, when do people not work? Do people not sit? I mean, now granted, we're a country of 300 million people or plus or whatever, but
yeah.
I sometimes I just look at these crowds and I think to myself, do people not? Did people just spend all of our time going to these places? I don't know. I mean, just is it just that we've all put ourselves up in the queue and we're trying to get to these places? Because I've just any place. I mean, you name it, Disney World, any place that I've been, random beach in South Carolina. You go there and there's people there.
Yep. I mean, it's hard. Like you think, oh, there's the off season. Not with a country our size, with enough big cities within driving distance of a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, there's some weather restrictive things like, Yellowstone in the wintertime, that kind of thing. Only certain people are going to go. But, like, for the most part, our area, where we can pretty much drive year round to places. We might have some cold times. Obviously, you get up into the mountains, you're going to get a little more snow and ice stuff. But, for the most part, nobody's going to the beach in the winter, really.
Yeah.
But you don't really want to go to the beach in winter. So, I don't know. I see what you're saying. Like, you're like, man.
I mean, I just think that there was a time, like if you said, you know what, I'm just going to be rugged. I'm going to go trek the Appalachian Trail. You'll probably feel like you're in line for a Disney ride, I guess, at this point. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like
I'm just trying to get up this mountain. Why is there a line to get up this mountain?
Why are there 200 people going the exact same way? I feel like I'm in a park walking around the trail.
I know.
I don't know if it's that bad, but
I don't think the AT is. I mean, yes, there's a lot of people on it, but it's so long. I mean,
right.
But there's also a safety in that in a weird way. Like there's a comfort for me in that. Like, yes, you can get out there on your own, but you're going to come across people, so you're not going to be like completely lost. There is a, but like you said, there's kind of like a freedom in being lost. Mm-hmm. I think, obviously Alaska and places like that, obviously out west, there's bigger spaces and.
Well, sometimes it would just, I don't know. Sometimes it would be nice if you could go to some of these places and feel like, like when you go to, I don't know, the mall on a Wednesday at 10 a.m. and,
it's not ladies walking around.
Okay, there's 50 other people here, but that's it. It's not like going to the mall at 2 p.m. on a Saturday.
To any young people listening, the mall was a place where there were stores.
Where do people go nowadays? I don't know.
What's going on?
But like when you went to the mall at 5 p.m. on a Saturday night, you expect it to be crowded. I mean, there's people.
Right.
But I feel like anytime I've gone to any tourist place in the last 10 years, that's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like I'm going there during the offshoot hours. Even when I try to make an effort to go on the offshoot hours.
Right. Well, it used to be Disney World in the off season was not as crowded, but nowadays it's like, from what I've heard, it's that way. It's like, nope, it's still crowded,
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody has the same idea. I'm going to go in the off season when there is nobody. Well, now there's everybody.
Now everybody goes there now because the word's got out because everybody has a computer and everybody has the internet and they all,
there's something to be said for that because, it's way too easy to book these things. In a good way, it's easy. And then in a bad way, it's too easy. You used to have to like go to places like, you remember like there are places where people, plan those trips. There are people you can hire that would even plan a Disney trip,
right.
And nowadays those people you're like, really? Do I need you? I can just do it all online. So there's a little bit of there used to be a little bit of a disconnect between that, like the people who had all the connections,
mm-hmm.
Giving you those connections. And nowadays it's like, you used to drive down to Florida and there'd be like discount Disney ticket places everywhere.
Yeah. Well, they still have those Mouseketeer travel agents or whatever. I have a cousin that's one of those actually.
Yeah, and I've got a good friend, fraternity brother that does it too.
Hmm.
And
So I guess it's still a thing.
there's still value in it, but I'm just saying, like, you could still go to Disney and not do that.
Mhm.
Now, again, you're gonna have to finance a Disney trip, but
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the other thing too. Most of these places, like you said, I mean, just because you have the government that runs it, otherwise, if it's a private entity, it's almost like a tourist trap no matter where you go.
right. I mean, but like national parks aren't gonna cost you a lot.
Right.
I mean, it costs a lot to be anywhere. We know that on vacation, but I mean, but you have to reserve things. You've got to
Yeah.
make sure you have tickets. Like little trick for Glacier, anybody who's listening, if you go to Mini Glacier, that place, buy a boat pass, even if you're not going to get on the boat, because that guarantees you entry into that gate even after it gets full in the parking lot
Mhm.
because you have a boat pass. So it's little tricks like that.
Yeah.
Even if you're not going to take the boat tour, you still can get in the gate when everybody else, like us who got there too late, were being turned away by the Rangers. So,
Well, I don't know that many people watch our podcast on YouTube, but if you do, maybe you could comment about this. Um,
yeah,
like for us, we know Stone Mountain. That's probably the biggest tourist attraction that we are very familiar with in Atlanta area.
right.
I mean, yes, we have others like the aquarium, Coca-Cola,
Yeah,
etc. But Stone Mountain is kind of one. I think that's the most popular tourist destination in Georgia still. Um,
I can see that.
but I also know that Stone Mountain is one of those places. If you can come on a typical Wednesday, any time of the year at like 11 a.m., you can pretty much hike the mountain. I mean, you'll pass several people, but that's about it. You know,
Yeah.
you'll feel like you're getting the to experience, or you'll be able to drive around the mountain with very little traffic. Obviously, if you go on a Saturday, you're going to get a lot more traffic, or if you go on a holiday
Yeah.
weekend, you're going to get a lot of people that are visiting on a holiday. Like, don't I would say don't go on a Fourth of July weekend unless you just want to be in a crowd. Um,
Ooh,
but but if you go, like, don't go on a Memorial Day weekend, things like that, you're just going to get a big crowd. But if you went, say early November at Thursday at 2 p.m., or even, anytime during the winter time would be fine. But if it's summertime,
yeah.
you're definitely going to hit crowds. But that's
Well,
not, seems like the case with a
and
lot
you
of
and I remember when it wasn't even as commercialized. Before Silver Dollar City ran everything in it, and it was just run by the Memorial Association.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there were attractions, but they were widespread. It was more about the natural beauty of the place. Now, I mean, you got to pay for a lot of things,
Sure.
including you have to reserve a spot on the lawn now for the laser show, which is ridiculous.
Hmm.
Um, and I worked there in high school for a few months, and even then I worked at gift shops, but the gift shops were still kind of like corny, state park gift shops. They weren't
Yeah.
overdone with 20 million things. And
Yeah. That reminded me of the how entertained we were back in the '80s. That those little those little glow in the dark bracelets that they would sell at the laser show was like the
oh
biggest,
yeah,
the biggest and coolest thing you could get at Stone Mountain.
yeah, you come home, put them in the freezer, and hopefully they'd stay lit.
That's just, if
Um,
you're from Atlanta, you know what I mean.
oh yeah, everybody knows that. That's from Atlanta. I mean, that's just and it was cool because in the summertime, I mean, we know it's hot. It's hot here right now. I'll be honest with you, and it's just now. It'll be summer tomorrow, but it feels like August. Um, but you could go there. You're all out there. Everybody's enjoying it. It's a fun thing. You didn't really have to plan much to be at Stone Mountain. You go out there, you get your spot on the lawn. Usually one or two people save it. You got
Yeah.
your spread out your quilt or blanket, even though the spiny grass is still coming through the blanket and hurting you when you sit down. But
Yeah.
there's that kind of those are our memories from our summers. We back when we used to have 3-month long summers, kids. Um, and those were the adventures we went on. We'd walk the mountain and walk up the mountain, which is no easy task. I'll just be honest with you, especially as you get older. Um, that is, not an easy hike.
It's a medium hike. I give it that, especially toward
It's
the top.
yeah, the last 100 or so yards of it are you're almost hands and knees. But we did that stuff. That was our entertainment. There's a few nice trails that actually go around the mountain. There's stuff like that.
Right.
Um, I mean, I remember when the Evergreen Conference Center was built, and it was like the coolest thing in the world. Like if you got to go into that place, now you go in there, it's like 1995 called, and once it's decor back. But you know, there's all kinds of stuff. Now they've got yurts at the campgrounds that you can rent. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff like that, but it's split between DeKalb and Gwinnett County. And if you drive a little ways out in the wrong direction out of Stone Mountain, you don't want to be there. You know, like things have changed a lot, you know.
Well, I'll say this also for like back to what we were saying. Oh no, do you have another point I was going to talk about?
No, go ahead.
Oh, the aquarium is another place where we went last year on a. Now this could be like post 2020, like people. They have a term for like everybody's trying to make up for lost time, if you will, visiting places.
Yeah.
We went to the aquarium on, like I said, it was like a Monday or a Tuesday at 10 in the morning. And I would call it a moderate crowd. It was not very crowded, but it was moderate. It was enough to say, these kids not go to school? I mean, what is this?
Yeah.
Because, you know, my kids were out of school, and it was like, okay, whatever. But, I mean, maybe everybody's taking the same days off. I don't know.
You know, and you'll find like my wife was talking about, my wife is a teacher, and so they've done field trips to places.
Right.
And so she sees the value in an interactive trip. Mm-hmm. So like take like a place like Jaymore Farms, it's just up 985, turning into 365 coming out of Atlanta. And it's a cool place. It's actually a working, you know, farm. They grow peaches, they grow strawberries, they grow a bunch of stuff. But they will teach you stuff while you're there. Like when you go out there, they'll show you things going on. There's this, you know, there's places like that around. There's another farm that does like corn maze and stuff up in Canton area. And they even have a sheepdog demonstration, which was phenomenal. So you think about smaller things like that when you go to places. Like think about the little local places where people really put their heart and soul into the presentation. Because the aquarium's great. There's not a lot of presentation involved. You know, it's kind of walk around and see stuff. And I mean, the stuff's amazing, don't get me wrong, but it's like,
right.
I'm paying that much money. I kind of want some sort of other experience. But
yeah.
You know, and I mean, growing up here like we did, it's like there's certain things that we've done a lot. You know, there's a World of Coke. There's the one they have now is not like the old one. The old one's getting torn down, by the way. Finally.
Yeah.
You know, there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, we had the summer of '96 here, which, I mean, we all remember that. That was crazy. You know, there's a lot to do here. We've got, you know, actual sports teams, which is nice as well. Obviously, where the Braves play now at Truist Park, and that whole Battery area is a destination in itself, whether it's a game or not. Heck, you can have just as much fun when the game's going on outside almost as you can inside the stadium.
Sure, yeah.
Which is nice. I mean, we've needed that for years. So there's other things to do in cities. You just kind of have to research, and you have to look at, you know, local things that go on.
Yeah. It's good to know local people too. If you know local people,
it is good to know local people. They're going to know what to do.
Point you to what to do.
Right. So if anybody needs Atlanta travel and fun advice, Gene and I are just two fun guys.
Well, not to mention, I mean, another good thing about the internet nowadays is if you say, "Oh, I think I'll go visit Nashville next weekend," but there's 10 million things to do.
Yeah.
People write blogs and Instagram things all the time about things to do in Nashville.
Yeah.
And what you should avoid and what you should, go after and that kind of thing.
I mean, the old adage, you're never going to see it all in one trip.
No.
I mean, that's Hawaii in a sense. That's everywhere,
Uh-huh.
And so you kind of hit the highlights every time. I mean, my sister and brother-in-law and my two nephews live in San Francisco. I've been 3 times now out there, and it's, I get to see something different every time. There's some things I do every time, but, I'm not going to do Alcatraz again. I did it once. I'll do it, if my wife goes, because she's never been.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many other things,
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of how it is in travel. And like we said, the whole idea of trying to figure out ways to save a little bit here and there. which I know doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but it allows you to do more fun things while you're in the trip. Like, get it to where if you can get to where you can only eat one meal out a day, that'll save you a ton.
All right. Well, we'll conclude on that one. And like, subscribe, share. If you like this, maybe comment below if you have anything about travel. And we will see you next time on Talk with the Now podcast. Thanks, everybody.